Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Afterthought style discussion. My name is Annalisa. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Director of Artistic Partnerships and Innovation at Baltimore Center Stage, which is on Piscataway land in Baltimore, Maryland. And I am joined today, I'm so honored to be joined by Delegate Stephanie Smith and Liz Miller. And we're gonna have a discussion in relation to the themes that are present in Kelly Goff's play, The Glorious World of Crowns, Kinks, and Curls. So I'm not gonna say too much now. I wanna ask Stephanie and Liz to introduce themselves and then we'll get into conversation. So Delegate Smith, can you say hello and let everybody know who you are?
Yes, hello. My name is Stephanie Smith. I'm a delegate representing the 45th Legislative District here in Baltimore City. So that's Northeast, East Baltimore City. And I'm also chair of the Baltimore City delegation to the Maryland House of Delegates. So just really happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. And Liz?
I'm Liz Miller. I'm a fine artist in Baltimore, Maryland. I also am a BIPOC filmmaker who is recently focused on these ritual cleansings of geographical spaces which were historically traumatic for Black bodies. So,
and Liz, can you say a little bit about your work as a hair sculptor?
yes. So in those kind of performance things that I'm doing, I make a lot of hair sculptures. So I have series that are based on the home. I have series that are based on sustainability in life, hair plants. And I have a whole series that are headdresses that are meant to elevate and allow the Black body to transcend and even come into more of a spiritual space. So.
Amazing, thank you. And I'm sure that we will get into this in a few moments, but Delegate Smith, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your work on the Crown Act, because I mean, there were so many reasons why I was like, Stephanie Smith, we must talk to her for this Afterthoughts, but particularly around your work with the Crown Act, that felt really important to Kelly's show.
Yeah, thank you. The Crown Act, which stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, that movement was really begun in the aftermath of a very unfortunate commercial produced abroad via Unilever. I believe it was for a Dove product, where someone went from unattractive to attractive, but they mainly went from being a Black person to a white person. So as you can imagine, this was widely ridiculed, mocked, and people were very concerned about what that message meant. But I think more importantly, you know, a lot of corporate responses to missteps is an apology, maybe passing out some extra samples at the next Essence festival. That might have been kind of like, you know, the ceiling of what that looked like. But they had an executive who had a vision. And she was like, that's not enough. Like, yeah, pass out the extra samples at Essence. Like, yeah, do that. But let's also use, let's use our brand. Let's use our network to really address something a little bit deeper. So, you know, natural hair discrimination, it's just the evolution of race-based discrimination. And I think in many ways, it just serves as a proxy for racial discrimination. So instead of saying no Black people can work here, we'll just create a series of policies that make it really discouraging for a Black person to maybe even want to apply or to remain within a system. And I think one of the things that was really fascinating is that, you know, Maryland is a pretty diverse state, and particularly for Black residents, roughly 1 out of every 3 residents in Maryland is Black. But just because you have a representation of people of color in a space doesn't always mean that the rules, regulations, policies, and climate are going to be conducive to people living at their optimal levels. So Maryland became the 7th state to pass the Crown Act last year, went into effect in October of 2020. And one of the reasons why I thought it was important is that I've been, you know, I'm a lawyer, I've worked on the Hill, I've worked off the Hill, now I'm an elected official. And at every moment in that journey, I either had an afro or, you know, maybe I had a blowout, I've had locks, I've had, you know, you name it, I've had it all. And I know that Senator Barbara Mikulski, who's very petite in stature, you know, people would tell her, well, you don't look like a leader, or you don't look like whatever, or you don't look the part. And she would always say, this is what the part looks like. So I feel like it's really important for people to know that you can be all these things, transformative in your community, a leader, you can be an elected official even, and you don't have to, you know, check your cultural identity and your heritage at the door. And I also wanted to unpack the notion that we're talking about hygiene when we're talking about natural hair. I always tell people, you know what good hair is? Healthy, clean hair. And that could be in locks, it could be an afro, and it could be, straight. So there are a lot of things that people sometimes hide their biases behind. And this bill really strikes to the heart of, nope, that's not okay. And it also gives a tool to folks that actually help to implement and enforce discrimination laws. It gives them a tool so there is a cause of action so that people can get redress, because many people have been fired, not hired, or not promoted because of their hair or the style in which they wanted to wear it, and they didn't think there was anything they could do. They just went, life's not fair, and they moved on with their life. Now they have a tool, they have a way to get redress, and people have been put on notice. You can't treat people any type of way. And I just want to leave you with this small thing before we continue talking. I know people kind of roll their eyes at representation matters, and when people say that, they go, okay, what are you talking about? But it wasn't lost on me that our forever FLOTUS, Michelle Obama, we did not see her natural hair pattern until she left the White House. It wasn't lost on me that she, and then as soon as she triumphantly returned for the inauguration, right back, So it's like, there's still a communication that if something's important, if something's serious, that maybe this texture can't go on that journey. And I think that we're all unlearning, learning, relearning so many things related to that. And I'm not immune. Forever FLOTUS isn't immune. And I just want to make sure the next generation of folks doesn't have to negotiate some of those things.
Yeah, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for all of that. One of the things that I heard you just saying, Stephanie, was sort of your relationship with your own hair and how that's been sort of a journey throughout your own career. Liz, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about if you've had, like, what's your journey been with your hair and your relationship to your hair and your own work? And yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, my hair, usually I wear it curly. This is still like super wavy. It's really long, so it's pulling it straighter. When it's shorter, it's definitely like a lot curlier. And so I go from like curly to wavy every time I'm wearing my hair. But, growing up, my grandmother on my father's side, my father's African-American, my mother is Dutch. And she would just be like, show us a magazine. The black hair magazines would be like, what do you want your hair to be? And I mean, my father was an artist. So sometimes I would be like, this is what I see. I'm not even looking at the magazine. I'm like, can you do this? And she'd just look at me and be like, see me like this? And I'd be like, yeah. And she would do it. And she would just wake me and my sister up really early, and she would make us breakfast, and we would have a slow morning because kids take forever to do anything. And then she would do our hair and we would look right going to school. And I always had really long hair growing up, but when my grandmother passed away, it was like, my mom's white, so she didn't really know how to do my hair. And I don't know that it was interesting to her. I think there are a lot of white moms that are interested and they try, but my mom was working all the time and it wasn't something she could take on. And my father made me cut my hair, which I think also is something that happens to young women, where the guy of the house is like, well, you don't know how to do your hair. I don't know how to teach you, blah, blah, blah. So we're just going to cut the hair, which actually makes it worse, because if you can't tie your hair back, you can't do anything, right? You really got to know how to do stuff if you got short hair. But no. And then I had an auntie who took us and got her hair permed. And she was perming her hair for a while, and then she wore her hair in an afro and had a flat top, and she was rocking it. She lives in Detroit. So I've seen a lot of different styles on different members of my family. I have a couple adopted siblings that are African American. So my family is very diverse, and we see all the different textures. And to this day, it's really funny because I work with hair sculpture, and I don't know why, but I'm just drawn to it. And my sister is a dog groomer. So we literally, I don't know what's going on with our genetics, but we ended up in these parallel fields. She's working with hair and animals. I'm working with fake hair. I don't know. So that's my journey.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Liz, when we were sort of preparing for this conversation, I think you had been interested in chatting about the ways in which Black hair echoes, like the sort of the ways in which Black hair echoes the over politicization of Black bodies. and how that sort of has been a journey throughout history and continues today, obviously. And I wondered if you wanted to chat a little bit about that. And then Stephanie, like, feel free to jump in. I wonder if we can just have a conversation about that.
Yeah, it's such a big conversation. It really, really is. I mean, like for me, I always think about if we go way, way back to where the Blacks were freed, and we think about Madam C.J. Walker, we think about where tignons were required, where you had to wrap your hair. And then, you know, white women had trouble because we were wrapping it real good. You know, we had that black girl magic working and people were noticing it. We were like, okay, I'll wrap it this way and I'll wrap it this way and you're going to notice me. You're not even going to see my hair. You're going to like me, you know? And they were feeling the sisters and they still feeling them to this day. But still, I just think that like what Stephanie was saying earlier, like hair politics, it's a vessel for so many things. And it's really about the Black body. And we can take it all the way to Breonna Taylor, where like the officer was responsible for the shots that damaged the property, but not for the shots that hit her body. So we lost value when we were no longer property. So I'm like, this stuff goes real, real deep. And like, if you're not really awake, if you're not really seeing it for what it is, you're like, but it's just about hair. It's never actually just about hair. It's actually about still controlling these bodies and where they go and what they can do and who's held responsible or not responsible. Because some police are being held responsible, but if you look at the races, that's why. You know, there's some Black police that are being held responsible for murdering white people, but it's never the other way. So, I mean, it goes real, real deep about policing bodies. And it's always political. It's always political. Everything's political if you think about it. But I mean, my work is about that, where I kind of trace it back to the history. And I'm like, what happened in this space? Because our cities are built upon other cities, right? We are building in one space and this land holds memories. This was also native land at one time. And there was so much that happened there. And then, you know, the colonies and then all of this stuff, especially in this area of the United States, we have a very specific history and a lot of murder and a lot of heaviness. Yeah. So, and then even to modern day in these streets, you know, like in my film that I did called Ubuntu, you know, we cleansed the corner where Freddie Gray was last seen alive. So it's like all the stuff that has been done to what was done last, you know, couple years. It's still, we're policing Black bodies for what reason besides that deep, deep issue of racism, right?
Liz gave us a lot there. There's a couple of things I wanted to pick up on. Talked about the policing of Black bodies. Think about how often elders will actually caution a young person of color around adopting a certain hairstyle, fearful that they'll be profiled, right? Adversely profiled. So I think there's this notion of fitting in. So, you know, in corporate America, this is how they hide a lot of biases. Oh, Liz, you just don't fit. It could have been your hair. It could have been, you know what I'm saying? It's all these things that are hard to peg down. But then on the reverse, embracing your culture and just simply existing in your community, now you fit something altogether negative. Now you fit the description, right? So it seems like there's no place that is safe for you to be authentic to your culture from an expression of your hair, because in every instance you're penalized or otherwise being set apart. And I think that's just so patently unfair. Why is it that the way someone's hair grows out of their head or their adoption of styles that are consistent with, you know, just cultural expression, why is that just never, ever okay? There's never a situation where it's okay. And I remember, you know, there's a professor I worked with, Professor Wendy Green. She's a law professor at Drexel, and she talks about just grooming codes in general, because I often told people, this is not just a woman's issue. There are plenty of guys who are wearing a low haircut instead of the cornrows or the locks they used to have because they thought they couldn't get a job or they couldn't, you know, move up in society. That's why it's really important that our mayor is wearing an afro. And I know it was probably quarantine induced, you know, I'm sure he wasn't setting forth, you know, to make like this bold statement, but you know, the situation was what it was. People couldn't get to these things that they needed for their usual grooming needs. And then you realize, is he a different person because he has a bigger set of hair? No, he's the same person. And I think that's important for young people in Baltimore and across America, quite frankly, to see that. And there were young people, we have high school students that are pages, you know, at the General Assembly, and they often wanted to take pictures of me because I had red locks and they had red braids or purple hair or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you can be a page and I can be the delegate and we could all be here. And that's okay. But I wanted to just bring up with the grooming codes, for example, Black men, the way their hair is growing on their face, sometimes being clean shaven, it seems like a benign request because you're a police officer or because you have a certain type of job. You should be clean shaven. But being clean shaven could actually be painful. It could increase ingrown hairs. It could create a situation where the dermatologist may recommend to that particularly man of color that has maybe curlier hair, you should keep a low beard for the health of your skin and your face, to reduce infection, to reduce whatever. So it's not even just about the hair that grows on your head. It's also, you know, these other things that some people think it's only about your religion or whatever. No, there's actually a public health reason why sometimes people have to have their hair, you know, growing from their face and things like that. And those are things I think we don't always think about. But when we have these rules that just go clean shaven, they're disconnected from the fact that we all don't have the same type of hair situation.
Amazing. Thank you. One thing that I just wanted to like bring into the conversation a little bit, because Liz, you brought it up, was this whole issue of native land. And I was just sort of like thinking about our relationship at Center Stage with folks over at Native American Lifelines and the Baltimore American Indian Heritage Center and Museum, and just like the ways in which this narrative of it used to be native land and it's not anymore in a lot of ways is actually it's actually like a misconception, right? That like we're in occupied Baltimore and that this is unceded land here of Piscataway Nation. And I loved what you said, Liz, about how the land itself holds memories. And I know that your work is so much about that. And to connect this all to Kelly's play, one of the things that's so moving to me about it is the ways in which she's working with intergenerational storytelling and how time works in the play. And you get these narratives from Black women from decades ago, and how like mothers and elders are passing on narratives to their children. And like the play sort of ends with this invocation or sort of wish and almost a blessing, like for young people, that is like a sort of wish for empowerment and yeah, just for good things for young people. So I'm curious to hear from both of you, if you were sort of thinking back to your own self as a young girl growing up, what kind of advice might you give to yourself, well, related to your hair, now knowing what you know about how your life journey goes? Maybe Stephanie, can we start with you?
Sure. I have really fine hair, really soft hair, and there was a relaxer mishap that was not a positive part of my childhood experience. And I guess for me, I wish I had never had the experience of having a relaxer. I felt like my hair was just hardier and stronger prior to that introduction. It was just part of the 80s, 90s, rite of passage. And when I went to college, I decided I no longer wanted to perm my hair, and I haven't looked back, and that's been over, I guess, 22 years later. But I wish that I didn't think I had to have my hair straight to feel like now I look pretty, now I look good, because I feel like I looked great with straight hair, but I look good with not straight hair. And I think that's all okay. And you know, I think one of the things that's so heartbreaking is that there are so many people I know who I honestly don't think they think they're beautiful without some external hair involved in their experience. I think it's great to add to your hair and do things that make you feel good, but to think that you are fundamentally unable to be beautiful with your own hair, there's still a part of me that's sad that there's still people that are dealing with that. And some of that's based on the whispers of childhood, whispers from either family, community, heck, it can even be a church. I mean, the things that people say, they imprint your heart and your spirit. And I think that as you surround yourself with people who love themselves and love you, you start realizing you don't have to listen to those, those negative whispers or negative thoughts, because a lot of the times the people who said those things to you, they were coming with their own hurt of the things that were said to them. And I remember the first time I started my locks, I was in the grocery store and this older Black man came up to me and he said, "You did your hair like that on purpose?" And I said, "Yes." And he grunted, he went, "Ugh," and he walked away. I'm just in the produce section, minding my own business. Okay. Like, I don't know this guy. And I remember my mom was very, like, "No, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that." But look, she got a little natural now herself the past 15 years. So, I mean, we've all come along on that journey in different ways. So like you were mentioning with the play, my mom had the afro, she'd had the falsies of the 60s. She's had a little bit of everything too. But I think she would never look back. And now she's embracing her white hair this week. We'll see. She might want to go back to black. But it's a journey of accepting yourself, and it's not easy. And we're all doing our best.
Yeah, I would say my hair journey was kind of limited. I grew up in poverty. And so like I couldn't depend on even having hair products available. And my mom being white, she didn't use any hair products. So it's like we had hairspray and I was like, that's not gonna work. And my grandmother had passed on and my dad didn't have a clue. And it's like asking for hair products felt really like asking for a luxury. And it was like I didn't have anybody really in my corner that understood that there needed to be something done. And I remember that like I literally would just pull my hair back with water, twist it in a bun, and just every day I wore my hair in a bun because there was nothing that I could really do about it. But I wish that I could say to myself to because I had access to the library and my sister was always braiding hair. Like literally, she started with Barbies and she said doll heads and she got me and she was good, and it was like, I think I could have bonded even closer with my sister with that. And I think that I could have connected better with girls in school. I was very much like to myself because I was just trying to navigate stuff. But I feel like the advice that I would give myself is like, go looking for this information in the magazines in the library. Go find girls that look like you. How are they wearing their hair? How do you want to present yourself? But also to ask myself, why do I want to wear this hairstyle? Because I think that there's like a double-edged sword there. Is that like, yes, express yourself however you want, but also ask yourself in a real way, I want this blonde weave, but why? Is it this deep-seated Eurocentric beauty standard that like, well, I'll look closer to white? And that may not be a conscious thought, but it may be, well, I saw somebody on the Grammys or somewhere else and they look nice, light skinned, whatever is the standard. And like, come against that. Ask yourself why you believe that. Ask yourself where you get that from and be careful what you're digesting through your eyes, okay? And what you really believe. Because there are so many amazing Black art openings that I go to. Everybody in the room is just loving their Blackness. And it is so powerful. And I'm like, every person, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. But they look, oh my God, there's so much beauty, And it's just like, we should all celebrate ourselves for what we bring to the table and not what media is telling us that we're not enough. We have to disrupt that. And I think even within our own community, I hear, because I work in the inner city schools, I hear so many things out of like the mouths of 9-year-olds. I'm trying to stay out the sun because I don't want to get too dark. Like these 9-year-olds at recess will say that. And it breaks my heart. And I'm like, child, get out there in the sun. You need some sun, like you need to wake up, wake up. That's a lie. But they'll be like, my grandmother, somebody else said that. And I'm like, we have to disrupt this. We have to stop that negative. And we need to just be like, be you, celebrate you. And I do see a lot of the opposite. I mean, honestly, as a teacher, I walk around my classrooms, I see the tops of everybody's heads. And oh my goodness, some of these beautiful hairstyles that these babies be coming in with, I'd be like, I can't rock that because I'm not 10, but you look amazing. Like, because I'd be like, can I do purple still? I probably could. I don't know. I'm gonna see. But you know, that's what I want for them, but it's also what I wish I could have given to myself because I didn't have anybody to do that. And I have such warm memories of my nana who just, she knew what to do, she knew how to braid. I was tender-headed too. I would be like, ah, ah, and like she just knew how to handle it and like, you know, be patient with me. And I want that for anybody and everybody with their hair journey, whatever race you are, right?
Amazing. Thank you both.
It's funny when I was listening to Liz talk about her relationship with her, grandmother, like these wonderful, like, bonding things. I only have brothers, and my mom really doesn't know how to do hair. So I did go to an older lady in the community, Ms. Myrtle, who would help my hair along and keep it healthy and everything. But I just didn't come from a family where the Black women were really like doing hair. We were like, we will cook you something. We were more of a cooking family than than a hair family. But I really envied people that knew how to braid like her sister, and knew how to do those things, because I felt like in some ways, this might be strange, it feels like when you don't know how to do certain things as a Black person, it's like, am I a defective Black person? Like, if you don't know how to play spades, or you don't know how to like do hair, I mean, there's these things, there's these things that seem kind of trivial that you feel people just expect that, you know how to do those things. So for me, I started my locks initially, like I said, 22 years ago. I combed them out, and then I returned to them about 7 years ago when I had my first child, because I said, I don't have time to keep a child alive and do my hair every day. So let me go back, because when I'm doing the blowouts and doing all this other stuff, it's just too much. Okay, we got to make a decision here. So for me, I think I'm that person that never saw themselves as like gifted in the hair business, but it was empowering to start my locks, maintain them, because I don't think I could have done some of those other really exciting things. I would have been able to give myself a cool braid hairdo. I would not have been able to do some of these other intricate things, but it gave me ownership of my hair experience in a way that up until that point, I felt like incompetent. Like I didn't know what to do around those things. And then I also, remember when I went to get my locks started, I actually asked a stylist to start my locks, and she said, your hair is so soft. I could basically take your $80 and then it would unravel like in a day or two. And you have to remember, I'm an undergrad. $80 is like $800 at this point, right? So I was like, thank you for helping me save this $80. And I just went and played around with it. And this is kind of pre-YouTube, pre kind of this like accessibility around hair that is available now for folks that just really wasn't available in the late 90s. And for me, it's just been really kind of cool to be able to do, like I dyed my hair last week myself. Like there was things I would have never done when my hair wasn't natural that I feel like I could do, because I was getting, I guess, not acquainted with my actual hair. And because when people say go natural, I remember someone said, you're not going natural, you're returning to your natural. You were always natural, you were born natural. So this is just a return. And I'm glad that I was able to return and experience what my hair was actually doing, sooner than later. There are people that are still beginning to get acquainted with their hair pattern and what their hair is doing in their 40s, 50s, and even 60s. So I just feel blessed that I was able to get a head start on that.
Yeah, I was going to respond to that. I really liked, I don't know, I just think it's so interesting. Like when I see my kids with a new hairstyle, I'm always like, wow, it looks really great. This is cool. Did you pick that out? And then I'm always asking them, who did it for you? Because sometimes it's mom, sis, but a lot of times it is a neighbor. Like it is this community bonding ritual. And it's something that's done in private. And it's done in such a special position too. You know, like literally my sister, she would get all set up. You got a movie on, you know, people chilling, you got some snacks or something. And then you sit between someone's legs. And I remember my sister would be like, lay your head on the leg because I got to get this just right. And like, you know, even it's the simple also like the embedded culture of correction too. Like stop moving, you know, like they're gonna pop you with the comb or whatever. And it's also like this gift of love where you're being adorned. And it's just like the play, like it's a crown and you are being adorned and there is love being sewn into your head. And this is where we look first. You know, I'm also a choreographer. So it's like I always tell my dancers, get your body right, but they will look here first and then they will see the rest of you. And so there has to be something going on here. You can't be blank, right? So it's all connected that like we look at one another and our hair tells a story. May not be a good story with some of us, but but it does tells a story of our health. It tells a story of what phase in life we're in. We may be still in the 70s, and that's just the truth. Okay. But some of us also may be in a phase where we're like, I'm experimenting, or I just went through a breakup and this is the whole new me. It tells a story of our lives, and it's really powerful. And to have our community to allow somebody to do your hair, but also for someone to care about you enough to do your hair. And there's always the politics of how much hair, if you're using weave, how much hair you can afford to put in, right? Or the quality of the hair, or how rough the hair gets before you finally undo it and redo it, which I see in my babies, and that's families. That's a little different. That's like, I ain't got time to do your hair because I got to go to work. But like, it's like, or you go into your dad's house. So, it looks rough at dad's house. So, so there's all these stories embedded in this journey, and it's just so based in community. And like, I will go to a movie theater and be redoing a braid on the sly, but in general, it's always done in private. And I just think about how special and sacred that is, that it's within the home, and that I never see anybody getting their hair done in public. Like salons are not really public, but yeah, it's kind of powerful in that way.
I'm so glad, Liz, that you pushed us to talk about that question. That was so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, my friends, I think that maybe we can wrap up for this Afterthoughts discussion. So I will say on behalf of Center Stage, thank you both for your time this evening, and thank you to everybody who joined us in this Afterthoughts discussion. If you've seen the play already, then please tell everybody that you know that this show is running through April 18th. And if you have not yet seen it and you've just gotten this email, the link to this Afterthoughts in your email, make sure that you check out the link to actually watch the show as soon as you can. And we hope that you will take a look at our website at centerstage.org for more information and more resources about the glorious world of crowns, kinks, and curls. And Stephanie and Liz, is there anything that our audiences should know about your upcoming work? Stephanie, maybe you want to tell us about yours first, and then we'll go to Liz.
Sure, yeah, so we're in the thick of the Maryland General Assembly's 90-day session. It will be wrapping up in the beginning of April. There's just a lot of real important work that's happening around police accountability and reform. A lot of good work that I'm looking forward to seeing reconciled between the House and the Senate. But I think it's important that Maryland take a stand, particularly on issues like the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights, because we were the first state to start it. We should be the state to get rid of it and to increase more transparency around holding bad actors accountable. So I think that's something that your village will probably be excited about. And also I'm personally proud of the fact that we expanded access to Maryland's earned income tax credit for low-income filers to include I-10 filers, which are sometimes our brothers and sisters that may be undocumented, but not always. But these are folks that work, and they should be able to get some relief, particularly in this tough time we found ourselves in for their families. So Maryland's only the third state to provide this opportunity, but we've enriched the benefits for the earned income tax credit at the state level to be the highest in the nation. So in this time of a lot of struggle for working families, I'm particularly proud that we were able to not only take that stand, it actually was emergency legislation. It's the law right now. Go file your taxes, people.
Thank you, Delegate Smith. Liz, anything to plug for you?
Yeah, for sure. I have a couple projects in the works. Hopefully you guys are getting cabin fever at home and ready to travel just a little bit. Maybe you're jumping over to the M&T Bank Stadium to get your J&J, and then you can get out there. So I have a big performance. It's really special, really risky, might go awry, but I'm really excited about it. So there's something coming up at Viz Arts in Rockville. The performance, hopefully no rain, knock on wood, say a prayer for me. So April 18th at 3 p.m., we're going to do a ritual cleansing at Viz Arts. It will be outside, so you can space out, so you can bring whoever. I have multiple performers, and so each of my performers will be standing in proxy for one of the Black men who was lynched in Rockville. And the last lynching happened a block away from there, which is why we're going to cleanse the ground. And we have a 30-minute ritual cleansing that will be happening. I will be debuting in my own work at this ritual cleansing, and I will be serving in the role of high priestess and kind of leading the ritual. And then get this, because this particular history is that these people lost their lives in midair. After we cleanse the ground, we're going to go to the rooftop of Viz Arts and we're going to cleanse the rooftop and cleanse the space. It will be filmed by drone. So if you're not on my mailing list at lizannmiller.com, and no E, feel free to jump over there, get on the mailing list. I do keep people up to date, but in the upcoming events on that, you can follow what we're doing. The Crown Act is getting passed in Delaware this summer, woot woot. And so I'm also doing a show at the Delaware Contemporary Museum in honor of that. And they gave me a whole room. They crazy, y'all. They gave me a whole room and was like, what you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. So there's going to be another performance there, and that's going to be in July. So if you're feeling like traveling, you're feeling like getting out, come see some of my stuff, see this stuff live. Like I don't even know what's going to be. It's going to be amazing though. So I would love to have you guys, and also follow me on the Instagram, Liz_Miller_productions, because I keep that really updated and would love to hear from you. So
Thank you so much. And we, again, thank you to our audiences for watching this Afterthoughts discussion. And we hope that you enjoy the show, and we'll see you again for another Afterthoughts at Baltimore Center Stage.